You cannot live in a universe where you can obtain the virtue of courage without there being suffering. Compassion. You have to go through suffering for people to have compassion. If God is trying to create children that experience the fullness of virtues, who experience something called triumphant good, you have to go through suffering. It's like any author. J.R.R. Tolkien didn't write a story of the Care Bears. He wrote the story of Lord of the Rings, and the characters go through immense suffering to get there. But at the end, we say, this was truly a triumphant good story. These characters are far better than they are than if they have never left the Shire. There's more to love about them. There's more to know about them.
It is Brad Lee back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs today in the studio. Folks, I got a real treat for you. Michael Jones, founder and director of Inspiring Philosophy.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming. Mm-hmm. Did you come just for this?
You bet I did, yeah.
And you came to Sin City.
Sure, why not?
So, folks, if you guys don't know Michael Jones, then you can go to find him on YouTube, on his YouTube channel. What's your YouTube channel called?
Inspiring Philosophy.
Inspiring Philosophy on YouTube. He's got quite a few followers there. You are also on social media at Inspiring Philosophy.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of work on TikTok lately, also on Instagram.
And ultimately, guys, what he does, I would say, is, number one, you have a master's in philosophy.
Correct.
So you're a philosopher. Mm-hmm. People say I'm a philosopher.
Well, do you have a degree in philosophy?
No.
But you don't have to be.
You don't have to have one to be a philosopher.
I would actually agree with you. I think you can learn a lot from people that don't have degrees. I think in philosophy
I'm one of those.
Yeah. Philosophy, I would say it's the basis of knowledge. Everyone questions things and their points, like, why am I here? What is my purpose? And that's philosophy.
So did you set out to prove anything wrong or right, or what got you into this? And how much annual revenue does a philosopher make?
Not a lot. What I started out was about 10, 12 years ago. I just noticed there wasn't a strong presence on YouTube of good Christian arguments. It was a lot of atheists and people who didn't know what they were talking about. And so I thought, well, I'll try to make some videos to try to help with that. And then it just started to snowball, and then it picked up, and then people eventually started donating to what I was doing, and I just kept doing it.
So you make your living through donations and ad. What do you got AdSense put on?
I do get YouTube ads, yeah. So, but 80% of what I get is from donations.
Well, we need to get your subscribers up so you make more on ads. I know kids that are making like $1 million a month advertising.
That'd be amazing, but yeah, nowhere near that.
Or not on advertising, but they're making it from the AdWords.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's good. And how did we find each other?
Well, a friend of ours, a mutual friend, Ruslan KD, he's got another pretty big YouTube channel, recommended we talk about some things that, I've noticed in some of your podcasts, you're interested in Christian theology and history, and I love that. I think it's wonderful you're interested in that, so I'd love to talk to you about some of that stuff.
Well, that would be nice. Number one, I have questions.
Okay.
Now, again, are you a theologian? Are you a theologian?
I'm not by trade. Again, I have a master's in philosophy, but I do a lot of theology videos.
So where'd the Christianity come into play?
I've studied the evidence many, many years ago. I felt like that was the most coherent worldview, the one that corresponded most to the evidence we see in reality. And so I slowly gravitated and became a Christian early on.
What were you before that?
I was agnostic deist, so I was raised in a very fundamentalist church background. Got picked on at church a lot because I was scrawny. Got a concussion at church one time.
What church was that?
A big mega church in the Pittsburgh area.
Who did they say your Lord and Savior was there?
Jesus Christ.
Right. And why would they call him that?
Well, that would be the transliteration of his name in English.
Really?
That we're familiar with.
Well, if that's the case, wouldn't the transliteration apply to all Jesuses?
All Jesuses?
Yeah.
Well, that depends. I mean, some people are going to be named based on different designators we have in our culture. So, like,
I know, but if you back up and you say, okay, what was Jesus's real name? Let's say what his real name was.
It would be either Yeshu or Yeshu.
Okay, based on how you pronounce it. But okay, perfect. I say Yeshua, but that's just how I pronounce it. Same name. We both agree his real name, his actual name, was that. Mm-hmm. At some point in time, it got transliterated and became a new name, which is now Jesus. Right? Would you agree so far?
Yeah.
Okay. So if that's the case, wouldn't all Yahshuas be now Jesus's?
Not necessarily.
How come? It's a transliteration of the name Yahshua, no?
Well, there is no name Yahshua. The Hebrew name would be Yehoshua.
Okay, well, again, I just told you, other than pronunciation, because again, I'm saying Yahshua. Let's say it's Yehoshua. I might not be saying it right, but it's whatever you said and whatever I said. Let's pretend that's the same name with different pronunciation. Like your name's Michael. Now, some people might say that's Michael.
Yeah, I live in Tucson.
That's your name. It's just different pronunciation. But it is your name. Michael is also Michael. Now, what is your actual name? Now, we'll go deeper because I want to get your theory on this. But your actual name is a sound.
Fair enough, yeah.
So if I gave you your name, it's a phonetic thing. I made a sound, and that is your name as a sound. Your sound isn't a word. Your name is a sound, and whatever your sound is when you were given your sound, because that's what it is. It's a sound. Words, letters try to get you to replicate that sound. So if I say my son is named Michael, Michael is your name in every language. In every language. That's your name in every language. So not in Chinese. Well, in Chinese, it's, because I don't know how to say Michael. No. Then you're changing my name because my name is a sound and my name was Yahshua or Yehoshua or whatever you say. I bet you know it better than I do, but I know that it's Yahshua or Yesua or Yeshua or whatever you said. What did you say again?
Yeshu. That's what I would.
Yeshu. Okay. His name was Yeshu. So was there any other people back then? Were there any other people with the name Yeshu?
Of course. Plenty.
Okay. Then how come they didn't become Jesus?
Well, that's a good question. So when we look in, for example, the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible, the Septuagint, we see the original name would be Yehoshua. There's a shorter version, Yeshu. And so when it's translated into the Greek Old Testament, the Septuagint, we see it basically translated as that. So
as what?
Yeshu. So
Jesus.
you go to Zechariah, for example.
Hold on, though, because I got to step through like I'm a dum-dum.
No, you're fine.
I don't have a master's. I dropped out of high school in 11th grade, by the way, and still ended up being a very successful individual. So
Right.
I don't necessarily, I'm the opposite. I'm not the degree guy, but I am curious. And that's the key, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's the only reason I'm stopping you, because at that point, if someone has to explain to me, if this Yahshua can become Jesus through transliteration, you would think all of them, when transliterated, would do the same thing. In other words, let's call it translated, because transliterated and translation is two different things.
They're two different things, correct.
So the transliteration of the word, which would be based on his name, his real name. Everyone knows not many people know his real name, by the way.
I don't even know if we can fully pronounce how it would have been sounded.
But that's his real name. That's his real name.
Well,
because they gave him his name, and he gave us his name in the scripture over a lot of times. His name used to be said a lot. And by the way, Jesus is the Son, or he's not God, and I got questions for that. Do you think he's God? Do you think Jesus is God?
I believe he is God. He's the second person of the Trinity.
Okay, so he's the same. He's one and the same.
He is of the same substance with the Father.
We all are. Would you agree with that?
No.
We're not the same substance as the Father.
No, I would say there's an energy essence distinction in the creation of God, building off a lot of thought in Greek Orthodox.
So we are not of God.
We are not of God's essence. That's what I would say.
Dang, and you're a Christian? Yeah. Most Christians believe we are.
That would be pantheism or strong panentheism.
Man, you get deep. Pantheism, I don't even know what that is.
So pantheism is all is God. Panentheism is all in God, and there are different forms of panentheism. I would say I would behold to what would be the philosophy of thinkers like Gregory Palamas, Maximus the Confessor. So it's a weak form of panentheism in that all in God, but it's not so much that all is part of God's essence.
Okay, well, again, we'll get deeper into that. If I got to go step by step.
Let's do it.
Let's go back to his name.
Okay.
If his name was Yahshua, or however you pronounced it, Yeshu, and it was transliterated into Jesus, why wouldn't all of the other Yeshus that were then also be transliterated into Jesus?
Good question. The reason is because of the progression we see of Christianity. Jesus Christ is distinct very much in Christian history. So as the ages go along, theologians want a way for Jesus to stand out different from other Yeshus that we see in the Old Testament or Yehoshuas. So the transliteration sort of evolves into their own directions to where Jesus can stand out and be unique.
So his name was changed.
Transliterated over time, yes. So it would be changed based on dialect, region, moving from language to language.
Okay, so his name was changed.
Yeah.
Now, is there any scripture that says that his name we should give praise to?
Of course.
So what is his name?
Well, it's going to be depending on who we're talking about.
No, his name was his name.
It
doesn't depend on who we're talking about. We're talking about his name. Who, him.
Yahweh would be the
that's
most
God.
appropriate.
Yeah, but that's God. You just said God's name now.
That is who I would say Jesus is, though.
No,
as well.
Jesus is not him.
Okay, well.
Who rose Jesus from the dead?
Well, the Father, the Holy Spirit,
Who?
and the Son.
Let's call him a name.
Well, in John 2.
Did Yahweh do it?
Yeah.
Okay, so Yahweh raised Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
So how is Jesus Yahweh?
Because
if Yahweh didn't exist, Jesus wouldn't have raised.
Well, within the Trinity, there are the three persons. So the Father sits on the throne.
Well, I've read
the
the Bible before, and I've never saw the word Trinity.
Have you seen the word omnipotent or omniscient?
Sure.
Where?
In the Bible.
Well, the word omniscient doesn't show up in the Bible.
I've seen it in there. I'm sure there's scriptures where it says he's omnipotent.
Well, there are scriptures that teach, yes, that he's omniscient, he's omnipresent. But those terms are like different theological terms or philosophical
No, but I see them in the Bible.
We formulated to describe what we see in the Bible, that yes, God is all powerful. Let's call it omnipotence. Yes, God is omniscient.
But how's that? Well, then how? Listen, remember when Yahshua was on the cross and he looked up and he said, "Why have thou forsaken me?" Mm-hmm. How did he say it?
Why hast thou forsaken me?
Yeah. Well, who's he talking to?
The Father.
Himself?
No, that'd be modalism.
Hold on. So who's he talking to? Himself or no?
No.
He's talking to something else.
The Father.
The Father that raised him, the Father that saved him, the Father that chose him.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, then how is he him? He can't raise himself, talk to himself. He doesn't have to ask, why am I doing this if I'm him? Like, I don't have to, if I chop off my finger is not going to look at me and say, well, why did you do that? Well, because, it would know that I'm me. We're all one.
So let me give an analogy. Have you seen the show Moon Knight?
Moon Knight, no.
Okay, so it's a Disney show. A very, very interesting show. In the show, they set the main character up as if he's a multiple personality disorder issue. That's not really what he has. It doesn't align with the way it would manifest in reality. Really, he is a brain, and there are three persons in his brain. So he's Mark, Steven, and Jake. And they talk to each other, they coexist, although Mark is the originator of both Steven and Jake. Now, when you look at the character Moon Knight, there's one Moon Knight, but he is still three persons somehow. That's an analogous to when we're talking about the triune God. It is one God, one being who is three persons. Or in the Orthodox Church says it's like one being, so one, and then there's three selves or three centers of consciousness in there.
Okay.
So they are all one substance, but they are still three distinct persons or agents.
I see what you're saying. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily, that's pretty much saying what I'm saying too. They're different people.
Yeah, they are different persons.
Okay, so
absolutely.
and I would agree with that. So again, are they all of each other?
Oh,
sure, they can be of each other. But again, I think we're all of each other.
Well,
aren't we?
Are you
We're all energy. You think you're that meat body you're wearing?
I would say this is I'm an idealist.
I know, but do you think that's you right there?
I would say this is a reflection of my consciousness.
So do you believe in like different dimensions?
I think it's possible, yeah. I think they're plausible. I think there's nothing.
Well, like for example, does everybody have a mind? Do you have a mind?
Yes, I'd say you are.
How much does it weigh?
Exactly. I don't think it weighs anything.
What's its temperature?
Exactly. It's not.
So it's not a real thing.
Well, I would say it is more real than the physical.
See, it is real. Well, then it isn't physical. Well, then there must be another plane other than the physical plane.
Totally agree, yeah.
Well, that's I believe who we are. We are of the other plane, not this plane. We are in this plane with some of our consciousness, but at the end of the day, I think ultimately the being, like when you die, that dies. You don't die. Mm-hmm. That's what I believe. What do you believe?
Oh, I totally agree. So I'm an idealist. I'm not a substance dualist. So a substance dualist says there is mind and matter. I'm an idealist. I say all is mind. Information, or what we see as the physical, as namely would be mental qualia. It reduces to information, these kinds of things.
Is this what you learn when you go to college and get a master's degree?
Well, this is stuff I've always been interested in. I was an idealist before I went to.
But you're saying words I've never even heard of.
Like idealism?
No, just like you're funny.
Well, let me give you an analogy.
You're a smart dude. You've done a lot of studying, but just what's your feeling when I say to you, Okay. The scripture says to give praise to his name, and most people don't know it. Now, when you say, well, they know his name, Jesus is not his name. Would you agree?
No, I wouldn't.
So that is his name.
Well,
yes or no? Is that his name?
it is his name.
Who gave him that name?
Our culture has given him that
Our
name.
culture. Is it more powerful than God?
No.
Is it more powerful than Yahweh?
No.
What'd Yahweh call him?
Yahweh would have called him, well, Yeshu in that time.
Okay, then who are we to change his name?
Well, for one
We
thing...
changed it, dude.
Well, do you believe the Holy Spirit inspired the authors of the New Testament?
Maybe so, but do you know what I also believe? That there's omissions in the Bible. There's stuff that's missing. There's stuff that they didn't include from Bible to Bible. You can go look it up. The Bible, although it might be an attempt to recount the stories and history of what's happening, all I know is if God gave him a name, who are we to change his name?
Well,
and then when I start looking at the 10 Commandments, one of which is don't take the Lord's name in vain. Well, if you look up the word vain, what that means is to don't make it meaningless or useless. And it's like, wait a minute. He's saying don't make his name meaningless or useless. So when I say, God damn it, people are like, you're taking his name in vain. That's not his name. That's a title, number one. And that's not what vain means. Vain means to make meaningless or useless. So when I say, well, his name's Yahshua, again, other than pronunciation, his name is Yahshua. I'm trying to use his name. Let's say I'm using it. Let's say that is his name, even though it's probably Yahshua. When you go watch Passion of the Christ and you hear them screaming his name, I've went back and listened to it a bunch of times because they're speaking Aramaic. They're speaking what the language was. They're saying his name. That was his name. And who gave him his name? The Most High, right? Well, Yahweh, or Yahuwah, as some people call him.
Well, I'm not sure about that pronunciation, but let's go back a little bit.
Yeah, it's Yahweh or Yahuwah, depending on who you ask.
I've heard of no scholar that would say Yahuwah. It's Yahoo, possibly at times. I know of Carl Vandertorn has used that at times when I've read him. But let's go back to
But that's pronunciation. Would you agree? We're all saying this. We're all saying the same name, but we're just saying it a little differently. So when you say his name's Yahweh, and the other scholar you talked about said his name's Yahuwah.
Yahoo.
Or Yahoo. Yeah. What's the difference?
There's no difference. It depends on the dialect, the time period, whoever is using it. But let's go back to the whole...
Hold on, though. Would you agree that it's pronunciation? It's the same name we're trying to pronounce.
It's variations on the same name, yeah.
It's the same name we're trying to pronounce. The variation is in our pronunciation. Yeah. The name is the same.
Well, you talked about why would we change his name to Jesus.
My name's Brad, and if you walked in and said, how you doing, Broad? It's technically not my name because my name's Brad, not Broad, but... you're trying to say my name, you're just pronouncing it wrong.
Right. Well, let's go back to the whole, why did we change his name to Jesus? Okay, so the precedence is already set in the New Testament because if the Holy Spirit inspired the authors, they transliterated into Jesus, which is the Greek equivalent in that. And so right then and there, the tradition is already set by the writers of the New Testament. It is okay to transliterate the Lord's name. So we see this in multiple languages. Like if you go
They changed it though. They didn't transliterate it.
No, it would be transliteration.
Then I have to look up the definition of what that means.
So a transliteration is you're trying to pronounce the name in a new dialect and language. So
but you changed it. You changed his name. And the reason I know that is because if there's other Yeshus, which there were, how come they didn't have the same translation? You don't transliterate this one way and this one another way, and transliteration can be whatever we want. Now we're like the gender thing. Well, you can be anything you want. No, you can't. You're either male or you're female.
Well, in Greek, if you go to the Greek Septuagint, yes, other Yeshus like Zechariah in the book of Zechariah, the high priest, it does become Jesus in the Greek. When you get to English, though, this long history of Christianity, we want Jesus, the Messiah, to be distinct from the other Joshuas. So then his name is transliterated a little different.
So you just said it. So I know you know what I'm saying. You said we want him to stand out from the other Joshuas.
Right.
Because that's how you translate the name. His name was Yahshua, now it's Joshua. So Jesus' name was Joshua, if we want to say it in today's language. That's why you just said we want to separate him from other Joshuas. Right, that's if you wanted to take Yashu, now is a Joshua. So Jesus now would be Joshua. That's his name. Now we gave him a different name because we wanted to, differentiate him. Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Yeah. But who are we to give him a name?
Well,
Who are we to give him a name? And by the way, he, right, gave us his name. He didn't say, change my name. Matter of fact, I think he said the opposite. He said, never forget my name. My gift, my name is my gift to you.
Well,
did he say that? Yes or no?
I don't think I know of a verse
I'll show
that
you a
says that.
scripture where it says it, and you got to admit it when I show it to you.
Well,
it says that his name is a gift to us. He also said, don't forget it. He said, give praise to it. He said, freaking call upon it. How are you supposed to call upon a name that ain't his? And then we went and changed his name. Who changed it? We did. He didn't tell us to change it. We changed it because we wanted him to be differentiated. He's already differentiated without us wanting him to be, which, by the way, is also when they were in that garden of Gethsemane.
Yeah. Gethsemane, yeah.
Yeah, and they were talking about it, and he said basically, Joshua says, they're going to come kill me, and I think it was Peter that said, we're not going to let them do that. Did you remember that conversation?
Yeah, he said.
And what did Joshua say to Peter?
So, well, this is before they even get there.
Yeah,
So,
but what did he say to him after he said that to him?
before that, it's before they get to Jerusalem. He says, "Get behind me, Satan."
Why does he say that?
Well, because it's the church teaching is that Satan was sort of tempting Peter to speak a certain way to prevent the plan from God
So
from being
Joshua
carried out.
knew because he said, "We'll protect you," basically, to get behind him, because he knows, like, if you're a true follower of me, you don't believe that you can save me, do you? Because you're a mere mortal, and you are going to save me. You are going to save me. I'm God. And
Correct.
you're going to save me? So as soon as he said that, Joshua knew that this was not his follower, his disciple, his people, but Satan. So get behind me, Satan. He already knew. Dude, nobody that thinks you're God is going to think they can save you, period. Why do we think we can give them a new name?
Well, let's talk about what that actually means in the ancient Near East. So names were not just simply designators. The scholar Jean Bottero, who's a French Assyriologist, notes this is something more intrinsic to a person. In his book Mesopotamia, he talks about this. When someone is given a name, it's more about who they are. You can't have a name. If you have a name, you exist. If you have no name, you don't exist in the ancient Near East. And this is what Jean Bottero talks about. So when God says, don't forget my name, it's not just don't forget this designator I've given you. It's don't forget who I am intrinsically. And this is why God still has multiple names, like El Shaddai, Jehovah
That's
Jireh,
what different people
Yahweh.
called him. Those weren't his names.
They were. El is a name.
If you go back to the very beginning, his name was Yahweh or Yahuwah or Yahoo, whatever.
Yahweh.
That was his name. You go in the very, very back. That's his name. Everybody decided to say, oh, I'm going to call him Elohim. I'm going to call him all these other things. But his name was Yahweh.
Actually, most scholars think the earliest name was probably El, E-L. So it's very likely that was probably the original name. And then as the story of Israel moves along, he gets introduced to, I have a special name for my chosen people. You have known me as El, but you also know me as Yahweh. This is the special name for El within Israel. So
But see, I have to go back and look at that,
Okay.
that scripture, because from my understanding, he said, my name is Yahweh.
yeah, it's true.
Right. So that's God telling us his name. Now we're going to be, well, what he really meant was, we want to distinguish him. So we changed it because, his name that he gave us wasn't necessarily very distinguishable or good enough. So we are not going to honor what he said. By the way, he said, don't take my name in vain, which means don't make it meaningless. So my question is, how much more meaningless can you make a name by not using it? Isn't that the worst thing you could do? If I said, don't make this useless, the fact that you don't use it literally makes it useless. So I'm telling you, don't make my name meaningless and useless. In the scripture, I'm sorry, a commandment. Like there's only 10 of them, one of which is don't make my name meaningless and useless.
Well, yeah.
And then we do exactly that. How? By not using his name.
Well, here's the thing. I agree with what you're saying on the surface, but when we go deeper, there's more going on here.
Well, that's what I invited you for.
So,
I want to know the deeper.
So let's talk about the third commandment. When he says, don't take the Lord's name in vain. For us, we think, don't curse. That covered in the third commandment, but also in the ancient world, they would have thought names have power. So this third commandment is more about like, don't take my name in an oath that you plan to break or using it for evil, those kinds of things.
I know, but so you're
because
making,
they're powerful.
I know, but you're making that up. Why don't you just read what it says?
That's from what the scholarship surrounding the actual
I know, but
third
just
commandment
because
is.
they're scholars doesn't make them right. Okay.
Okay.
What did the sentence say?
Thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain.
Then just why can't it be that? Okay, so what does that mean?
'Cause
That means don't make my name meaningless. Period. Like why the scholars believed, why are the scholars even thinking? It says what it says. Why don't you just read it and let it be? Because people say he's not a confusing God. Scripture does. He says he's not a confusing God.
Author of confusion regarding tongues. Yeah, in 1 Corinthians 14.
He says he's not a confusing God, right?
He says he's not the author of confusion. Paul says God is not the author of confusion. So therefore, if you're going to speak tongues, you need an interpreter. So that's only in reference to the idea of there being tongues in the church.
Okay. So I always thought read somewhere, I have to go back and look, but it said something like he's a loving God and not a confusing God.
I'm not sure if that direct translation is anywhere in the Bible.
All right, well, I'll go look.
Okay.
See, I should have did my preparation. Quite frankly, I forgot you were coming.
Oh, no worries.
Only because when it was set up, I thought it was more humorous. Like, oh, that'd be fun because I think this is fun.
I do too. Yeah.
But and that's why I was excited. And then I forgot, like totally you were coming. And when I saw you today, I'm like, dude, I've been waiting for this. How long have we been waiting for this?
About a month, I think, is when we scheduled it.
Dude, it seemed like a year ago.
Oh, sorry.
So anyway, I'm not arguing with you. I'm investigating.
It's all right.
And I'm using common sense. Why? Because if you ask me, it's not rocket science. We don't have to try and figure out what God meant when he said it, what he meant. And what he meant was, don't make my name meaningless. That's what he said. Right. So it's like, I don't need a scholar to come and, figure out what that really means. What it means is what it means. Don't make my name meaningless. And I just say, okay, I won't make your name meaningless. And then someone comes along and says, hey, don't say his name. Make it meaningless. Let's call him something completely different. And by the way, out of love, we're trying, but we're just mere mortals, man. We're not God. Exactly. So who are we to change his name like that? He said, here's my name, and don't make it meaningless. He said it simply. And now we have scholars and biblical people trying to determine what that meant. And they all have a difference of opinion, don't they?
On various topics.
Yeah, like none of you guys agree. You can argue with your own kind, yes or no?
I mean, you can, but I mean, on this topic, it's pretty well the consensus that when you're talking about a name of a deity, you're not just talking about the specific designator he wants. You're talking more about his intrinsic
reputation.
Nature. More than that. That's included, but it's more than that.
Right. But I know what you mean by that. Like when you say his name, they meant back there his reputation, his
yes.
the legend of this.
But also, acquiring more names would also bring more honor to the deity. So in the Enuma Elish, for example, Marduk is given somewhere up to 50 different names.
By whom?
By the other gods in the Enuma Elish.
Okay, well, again, if a god gave him the name, I would say you are correct.
Well,
but God didn't give us the name Jesus. God gave us the name Yahweh, and then his son was to be named Yeshua. So his name, and again, I might be pronouncing it wrong, was Yeshua, given to us by Yahweh, who is God. And then he said, don't make my name meaningless. And then we went and changed it, and now we don't ever say it, ever. Well, like, how much more meaningless can it be? How much more useless can his name be? We're not using it. We've changed it.
Well, again, it's not so much about this one specific designator. It's about who he is and all the designators that represent who God truly is.
How do you know who he is if you don't even know his name?
Well, the scriptures tell us who he is.
They also tell us his name.
Right.
So we changed it.
Well, we may not even be able to fully pronounce Yeshu with the certain consonant at
But
the end.
What if in certain languages they couldn't. Doesn't mean they couldn't. They just didn't.
Not in Aramaic. There's the last consonant, the letter is in Ayin, for example, and it's made by constricting the back of the throat, I believe. And I have a hard time even doing it the way I've seen scholars do it. But
that's his name, right?
His name would be Yeshu, as best I can transliterate it.
Okay, so again, it's transliterated as Yeshu?
Yeshu.
Then how did it get transliterated again to Jesus?
Because over time, as it goes through from Greek, which is already transliterated by the New Testament authors as Jesus, then it becomes Isus in Latin, and it stays that way until we introduced the J into English about 400 years ago, I believe, or so.
How many?
And then Jesus eventually comes out.
How many years ago?
About 400 years or so. Maybe the 1600s, the J.
1500s.
Yeah, something like, I forget exactly.
The 1500s. King James version of the Bible.
1611.
Now, King James, by the way, why did he have his own version of the Bible?
Well, there's a whole history. There was actually numerous translations getting up to that point.
But why did he get his own version?
Well, he was sort of the one who commissioned the
because he's the king.
To do that. Yeah, he's the king at the time. Yeah,
he's the king. That's why he gets his own way. And by the way, his version is his way. It's his opinion. It's his thoughts. It's his version of the word.
He probably didn't do much of the translating, though. He would have just commissioned it.
It's his version. That's what they call it. The King James Version. Now let's look up the definition of version. What does that mean? Well, his rendition, his opinion, his thoughts. This is the King James Version of these words. And we're all following it. Well, who the hell is King James? Why the hell did he get to have his own version? How about what was the version? How about what's the original word say? Does it say what his version was? And if it says, yeah, it was, well, then why is he taking claim for these words when it wasn't his words? Why is it his version?
Well, the translators that he hired to do it was sort of like dedicated to him, I guess you could say.
I would say because he changed it.
I don't think he changed anything.
You better go research a little more.
He was not the one working on these translations.
Scholars have agreed that they've been changed. Like, there's nobody arguing this anymore.
Well, at the time, the best manuscripts they had would have been something like the Textus Receptus for the New Testament. So they're going on the best manuscripts they had at the time. Now we found more. There's more available. Scholars rely heavily on earlier manuscripts like Codex Sinaiticus.
Which makes sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah, P75.
Why would you listen to one that was 2,000 years after the fact if you can go to the writings of that day?
Well, we can't. Basically, we have
in
early
some cases
fragments.
we can.
Earliest ones we're going to have is like P125, I believe, which dates to the 2nd century. One of the most complete fragments we have is P75. It has a lot of Luke and John in there. The first complete Bible we have would be Codex Sinaiticus in the early 300s, I believe.
Right around the Emperor Constantine's reign, perhaps? Mm-hmm. And what happened there with the Nicene Council?
The Arian heresy was discussed, as well as the date of Easter and church administrative issues.
And explain to me Easter.
Easter? Oh, so it's the celebration. It's originally called Pascha until it came into English, and it's the celebration of Jesus' resurrection. And so at the time, they typically followed a Jewish calendar revolving around Passover. At the Council of Nicaea, they wanted to be more distinct, so they established the date of Pascha or Easter should fall on the first Sunday after the first full moon of the spring equinox.
Why?
Because they were trying to distinguish themselves from Judaism.
See, again, here who was? God?
No, the church council.
The people.
The bishops.
The human beings.
The bishops, yeah.
The regular old people.
Sure, yeah.
So they're changing things again. So again, like Yahshua, was he Jewish or was he a Christian?
Well, he was a Jew that started Christianity.
Well, Christianity formed behind him. I don't know if he started it.
I would say he started the church, yeah.
He's Jewish.
Right.
He didn't say I'm not Jewish.
Right. I mean, the first Christians were
Jewish.
Yeah, all the first Christians were Jewish.
Okay, so I know, but that's what I'm saying. So he's Jewish. Why is he? Why are we now changing that? Hey, we don't want to be Jewish. We want to change things from Saturday to Sunday. We want to worship not when our God worshipped and told us to worship. We're going to think up a new one. We're going to change things. Well, who said that? Well, people. So why are we following other people's stupidity?
Well, Jesus never said we couldn't worship on the day he rose from the dead.
But he worshiped on a Saturday or the Sabbath day.
Well, he would have rested.
Why wouldn't we?
Well, because we are under the new covenant. He fulfilled it. Romans 3:31 says the way we fulfill the covenant is through faith in Christ. So Christ has fulfilled the Old Testament, the Mosaic covenant. We have faith in him that he upholds it. And then he turns to his new followers and said, this is the new covenant I give to you. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Follow me. Love God.
As
be
opposed
baptized,
to
partake of
eye
the
for an
blood
eye.
and the wine. What?
As opposed to eye for an eye.
Correct. Yeah. So that's been fulfilled in Christ.
Yeah, they changed it. So somebody came, but yeah, they did.
Well,
like
fulfilled.
Old Testament and New Testament are a little contradictory.
I wouldn't say so. I'd say one is fulfilled in the new, and then this is sort of.
I don't understand what you mean by fulfilled. Like the Old Testament told us, eye for an eye.
Mm-hmm.
The New Testament says, turn the other cheek.
Correct.
That's contradictory. Do I take an eye for an eye? No, not anymore, because Yeshua died for our sins and gave us resurrection and forever lasting life or whatever. Okay, I understand that. So now love one another, turn the other cheek, do not strike back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it went from some dude takes your eye, take their eye, to now some dude smacks you in the face, let him smack the other side of your face. That's contradictory, dude.
Well, I would say they are a different ethic based on the circumstances they've been put in.
Yeah, but who said it? If it was Jesus said that, Yahshua said that, well, that is our God or our God's chosen son, which is supposedly our leader. Okay, he said it. Okay, good. Then it's good enough for me. Why? I don't need no more than that. Why? Well, if he said it, that ain't Peter saying it. It ain't Peter, Park, Luke, and John, and freaking, Abraham and all these other people. Like, who are they? Who are they?
Well, the disciples were commissioned by him to begin the church. So after his resurrection, he in the book of Matthew.
You're talking about the apostles?
Yeah, the disciples, the 11, and then they brought in Matthias. So then
did you know that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, that wasn't their name either?
I mean, Matthias.
You could go in, and there will be different names than they are now.
Yeah, they're transliterated as well. Yeah.
And again, are they? Or are they changed? I don't know.
Transliterated.
Again, Jesus was changed. It was changed. It's not transliterated. Otherwise, all of them would be the same. Like you transliterate a name, the same for all of them.
Well,
Do you not?
Even in the Hebrew, when we look at Joshua from the book of Joshua, his name is transliterated two different ways. So sometimes it's Yeshu, sometimes it's the longer form. And so we see this sometimes.
But that's not a transliteration. That's a translation.
Well, no, a translation would be like, take the word shalom. Okay, I'm going to translate it to peace. That's the meaning. A transliteration is saying, well, how do I reproduce the sounds in these letters of this other language?
And if you can't, then because the letters don't allow it, right?
No, we have shalom translates just fine.
I know, but if you couldn't say that in this new language, you'd change it.
You would translate it to peace, yeah.
Yeah, so you'd change it because let's say shh didn't exist. So I'm going to say peace, which kind of means the same thing, but it's not the same thing. The same thing was shalom. So I cannot say shalom in another language and get people to understand because there is no shh. But if I just went over there and said, my name is Shalom, they would have never heard anything like it. Wow, I've never heard that name before, ever. Well, that would have been cool. Why? Well, because that's his name. And we shouldn't have changed it. We should have just used it like he asked us to. Because he did ask us to.
He said, but again, when he's saying to honor his name or to give praise to his name.
Call upon it.
It's more about his whole being.
I know that makes sense in some cases, but what about call upon my name?
Yeah, you call upon it as you understand it.
Call upon my reputation, call upon my being. No,
yes.
He's saying call upon my name, use my name, call me, I'll be there. Come and say my name and I will show up and help you. Call my name. Well, what's his name? Well, his name's Jesus. No, it isn't. That's not his name. His name, who gave him his name? Like what was his name? Well, his name was Yahshua. Then that's his name. Why are we trying to pretend that it isn't? Well, because we wanted to distinguish and all this other shit. Who? We the people, we regular old mortals, we decided, so now his name's something completely different than what it was and is? That doesn't make any sense to me. That's all I'm saying in my videos.
Well, God already set the precedence when the New Testament was written because it was written in Greek and the transliteration of Yeshu is going to be Jesus. So right then and there, God is already saying it is okay to transliterate my name. And then the Christian tradition just carries this on when it goes into Latin, when it goes into
Transliterate
English.
Is one thing. Change is another.
I don't think we've changed his name, though.
You had to have. Why isn't it the same? Because when you tried to get other people in that language to understand, there wasn't a way to get them to understand. Like, for example, all in the Greek mythology, all male names ended with an S, all of them. So you could not use an S and get people to understand that it's a male deity. No one would understand. So I'm going to go tell all these Greek people that this guy was a male deity. So how do I say that he's a male if I don't have an S on his name?
I mean,
I don't, because no one will know what I'm saying, because you have to have an S. All men, all male had an S at the end of their name. So that kind of almost meant it's a male. It had to be, because there was an S at the end of his name. There was no S at the end of his name. So they added an S. They changed his name so it would make sense to mere mortals.
well, I mean, again, that happened long before Jesus even existed, when they're making the Greek Septuagint. Yeah,
No, that happened at the Council of Nicaea.
No, they didn't discuss that.
How would they change his name long before he existed?
Because the name Yeshu was already transliterated into Greek in the Septuagint before Jesus was born. So it was already a precedent
So
set.
if I go back to the Septuagint, his name's Jesus in there?
No, it'd be Jesus.
His name would be Jesus in the Septuagint before he even existed.
Because the name Yeshu in like the book of Zechariah becomes Jesus.
Understood. But I believed, until now maybe, I'm going to go check this out, that before he even came, the scripture foretold of his coming, and Yahweh said his name shall be Yahshua, which technically is Yahuwah's name. Yahshua is the same as Yahuwah, but it's just Yeshua. It's the same. Like, in other words, God's salvation. Like, Jesus' name is supposed to mean salvation is God. Yahshua is salvation is God. And Yahuwah, which by the way is damn near the same name, is God. So Yeshua was his name. But I can't explain to all these Greek fellas that this is a male deity. And that happened at the Council of Nicaea.
They did not.
Which was 300 years after Jesus died.
That did not come up at the Council of Nicaea at all.
Okay, so if you go up to the scripture, back in those days, let's say before Jesus, and it says Jesus, well, then I'll go, I didn't factor that. I need to do some more research. Why? Well, because to me, the name changed after he existed, not before he existed. The name changed after he existed.
Well, again, there was already...
Because when he was around, he spoke Aramaic. He didn't speak Greek.
Yes, he did.
He spoke Aramaic.
Both, probably.
Well, maybe.
There's a book called Did Jesus Speak Greek by K. Scott Cleaves. Stanley Porter has also talked about this, as well as Peter J. Williams, that Jesus, actually some of the sermons he gave, like the Sermon on the Mount, may have originally been given in Greek based on some of the wordplay there.
So what's his original language?
His main language would be Aramaic, but a lot of Jews in that time period were bilingual, so he probably also spoke Greek.
Okay, so let's use Aramaic. If he said, hey, my name is, would he have said Jesus?
He could have if he was talking in Greek.
Well, how come all the scriptures say Yahshua then?
They don't. They say Jesus in the New Testament.
We're talking about in today's Bible.
Well, in the English today.
And the New Testament wasn't written before him.
No, it wasn't.
So we're not talking about the New Testament. The New Testament is what I'm saying. Someone changed it. In the Old Testament, is his name in the old scripture?
In the Greek translation, there are other Joshuas that we could translate, or Josiahs. So we actually have multiple words that come out of the Yehoshua. So we have Joshua, we have Jesus that comes out of it, we have Josiah. We have multiple names that branch out as, languages evolve and change and things are transliterated. So we don't even just have Joshua. How do you know that we shouldn't translate it to Josiah then, technically?
How about don't try and think? How about just ask, what's his name? What was his name? Who knows the original? Go back to the very, 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 very beginning and find out from the source, what was his name? And then they will say his name was X. Okay, whatever that is, that's his name. Everybody else was wrong for changing it, was wrong for transliterating it, was wrong for trying to do what they did. They're wrong because we're human. We make mistakes.
I don't think that follows from their culture, though, because to them, transliterating is not necessarily changing their name.
But
it's actually giving more praise to it in some ways.
It might be a mistake that they assumed that's what they were doing, when in reality, they changed his name.
I think that's our culture.
Like, my name is Brad. You cannot say 200 years from now, my name was Barney. No, it wasn't. Well, we had to say that so this person knew, and that's kind of what our cousin told us 200 years after you died. So we went ahead and believed them instead of you, who told us their name, but we refused to say it and we refused to acknowledge it. For some reason, we all want to change it and use up our own rules. And when you trace it back, it's like, who started all that? People. People did. So you're talking about not gods, not our God for sure. And by the way, thou shalt have no other gods before me.
Mm-hmm.
Were there other gods?
There were other Elohim, yeah.
So there were other gods.
Well, the book of Exodus says, for example, I shall bring judgment on the Elohim of Egypt.
Okay, so there were gods.
I see this that there's a little bit of issue there when you say that, because Elohim does not necessarily translate to God.
Thank you.
Elohim is
a name. It was his name. That's why they called him El.
No, Elohim is a designator for anything in the spiritual realm. When Samuel
Designator as a deity.
No, not necessarily. So Samuel, when he dies and Saul goes to the necromancer and says, I need to speak to Samuel. The necromancer says, an Elohim is coming up, and it's Samuel. It can refer to demons. It can refer to angels, to God himself. It can refer to dead humans. It is a designator for anything basically of the spiritual realm.
Again, I don't know that to be the case, so I can't argue you're wrong. So let's assume you're right. What's that got to do with his name?
Because name itself is not necessarily calling up a specific designator. When God says, remember my name, these kinds of things, remember who I am intrinsically. I have multiple names.
That is an opinion.
I think that's the scholarly consensus.
Well, again, who are these scholars? Do we just agree that they know something because they called themselves a scholar?
Well, they've spent their lives studying the language and the culture.
Were they gods?
No, but they probably know more than you and I.
Were they blessed in any crazy way? Was there some sort of supernatural, spiritual, differentiator between them and me and you and everybody else on the planet?
Well, they just have more education in the area. It's like if I'm going to go to a doctor.
Do they though?
Yes,
do
they do. Absolutely.
Okay, so like when you go to a doctor and they tell you to take certain medicine, who gave them that education?
The universities, for example.
And who funded those universities?
Depending on different
in certain cases, the Rockefellers. Right, and the Rockefellers owned the medicine. So doctors were simply just educated to give whatever the Rockefellers wanted us to get, which was petroleum-based vaccines and medicines. You can look that up. It's the same thing. Could have happened with the scholars, with the Bible. I'm just telling you. We could be wrong, right?
We could be.
Do you know that you could be wrong, Mike?
I very well could be wrong.
Okay, that's all I'm saying. As long as you know. Okay, well then why couldn't have they? Oh, well, they were scholars.
Well, let me give you the evidence.
Who cares if they were scholars? Look at the words, the simple words.
Well,
don't take my name in vain. Now, to me, that means don't say God damn it. But first of all, God ain't his name. And he's not saying that, because if you look at what it means, just what does the word mean? That we all agree, scholars included. Vain means to make meaningless or useless. Okay, well, go ask all your scholar buddies, and they'll say, yeah, that's what it means. Mm-hmm. Okay, then he said, don't make my name meaningless and useless. And then all the scholars got together and said, let's see what that means. I think it means, why are you thinking and why are you spreading your words when God just gave us his? And if he gave us his, who are you to change them? Who are you to try and get me to understand them? Other idiots in the world. Well, then I got to trust that your definition of everything is correct. Well, what if it isn't?
So I have a question then. Why then do we see multiple names of God in the Old Testament? We see Adonai, we see El, we see Yahweh. I mean, mostly it's Yahweh.
I know, but if you search, who called them that? And you say, oh, the Mesopotamians or whatever.
No, Moses did. Moses called him El.
Okay, so you go back, maybe that relationship that they had, he said, I'm going to call him El, but what's his name? Well, when Moses says, what should I say? And who sent me? How will they know that I know you? He said, here's my name. Now, what did he say exactly? According to the scripture that most people read, he said, I am that I am. Well, again, if you go back, you know what a Hayah is? Mm-hmm. Okay, so his name is a Hayah. His name is a be. That's what the literal translation of his name is.
I will be that I will be. Mm-hmm.
But what he said was, and according to old scripture, not today's Bible or the Septuagint or some version of the scripture, because there was no such thing as a Bible until we made it. Mm-hmm. The scripture was written as close to that time as possible, says that he said in the scripture, my name is Yahuwah. Tell them Yahuwah sent you.
I don't think that's accurate at all.
Again, it may not be. I'm researching stupid shit, maybe, and it could be wrong. I'm saying to you, though, is think about that. What if that is what the original scripture said? My name is Yahuwah. That is my name. Tell him Yahuwah sent you. Now, what if that you found out that is what it said?
That would be quite, that would change scholarship because I've never heard
Thank you.
Yahuwah
I
mentioned
might be
once.
the guy that instigates change
could
of
be.
scholarship.
That would be something.
Well, go investigate for me.
So the way it says in Hebrew would be ayer, and then the rest of it is ayer, then you go asher, ayer. So I don't like to say it all together because I think that's...
Saying his name?
Well...
And by the way, you tell me his name like that, and I'll say it all the time. Why? Because that's what he told us to do.
No, because Yahweh is like saying that in third person, according to the scholars like Michael Heiser. You don't say that because, like, you wouldn't say, like...
He says, call upon my name. I would say it if I knew it.
It's like saying that in third person. It's like more like saying, he says, I am. It'd be like saying, you are. You don't say that in that language because then you would be sort of... Heiser, I remember talking about this. You'd be putting yourself in the position of God. Only he could utter that about himself.
But you realize as his children, right? Us mere mortals, right? He would think that's cute. Oh, look at this little fella trying to say my name. Just like a little baby. Like if a little baby came up to me and they were trying to say Brad, but they weren't. They were saying blah, blah. I wouldn't be mad because they're not saying Brad, because they're not. They're saying blah. I'm cute. I'm impressed because this little intelligent human being that I've created, by the way, is trying to say my name. Like, that's cute. He's trying to say my name. But if he was trying to say Steve, that's not my name. Who taught this kid that my name is Steve? Oh, his parents? Well, who taught his parents? Oh, the scholars. Well, who the hell are the scholars to change my name?
Well, I don't think God is really concerned about that.
I know, again, but you're a scholar. You could be wrong.
I could be, but I think God more cares about what the heart is doing and where it's at when we say Jesus.
So do you think that my heart's in the right place right now?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if I died, would I be wrong?
Well, I think it's just not that of an important issue.
Well, we're going to find out one day, aren't we, Mike?
We sure are.
You better hope we are.
Well,
and I hope all your research has led to the facts and that there is a God and it is all real. Because people say, well, Brad, what do you think? I don't know. Mm-hmm. Why? Well, because I just don't know. I mean, have you ever heard George Carlin? He makes some pretty good points. He makes some really good points. Have you ever heard like some of the arguments against Jesus and God and all this nonsense?
Oh,
why?
Yeah.
Well, don't call it nonsense. You just have to have faith. Oh, isn't that convenient? There's no proof of it anywhere. So it's like, there's proof everywhere, but not hard evidence. Otherwise, everyone would already know that there is. And you better pay attention because when you die, you're going to be screwed. Where's the hard evidence?
Well, define hard evidence.
Well, for me, hard evidence, for one, are females. Like, who could have thought of that? Like, think about that. Mm-hmm. Perfect. Okay, great. Well, there had to have been a God. We didn't invent that, and we couldn't make that. We can't make it right now. We're trying to make them, but we can't. Okay? How? Well, God. There had to be a God. We didn't evolve, I don't believe.
Okay. The evidence I use for Christianity is like arguing for the resurrection and the evidence that supports it.
Okay.
So
Can we talk about that for a moment?
Sure.
Okay. When was he resurrected?
Well, it would be probably around 33 AD.
Was it a Sunday?
It would be a Sunday, yes.
It was a Sunday he was resurrected.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, according to scripture that I've looked at, it says that he will be in the belly of the whale for 3 days.
Matthew 12.
And he was in the ground for the same amount of time.
So in the Jewish context, that is an idiom to denote just roughly 3 days. So look at the book of Esther. Esther 4:16 says, fast for 3 days and 3 nights, and then I will go to see King Ahasuerus. But then Esther 5:1 says, on the third day she went to see King Ahasuerus. Go back to Genesis 42. Joseph throws his brothers in prison for 3 days. But then it says, on the third day he went to him. In that culture, and we see this in the Talmud as well, it was well understood that you could say 3 days and 3 nights, and it could still refer to any time on the third day or after. So there was a line.
Okay, well, what time did he die?
He would have died on Friday in the afternoon.
Friday of the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
What's 3 days from Friday?
Well, the 3 days, since most scriptures say that he would rise on the third day, it would be Sunday.
And by the way, when was Passover?
Passover would have been Thursday.
So Passover dinner would have been what?
Thursday evening.
And then they killed him the very next day.
Correct.
Which was a Friday.
Correct.
And then Saturday, Sunday, how many days is that?
So that's on the third day, so it'd be 3 days.
No, how is it 3 days?
Because in the Talmud
Friday,
we read
right? Friday was the day he died.
Yeah.
Can't count that day. He died that day.
Yes, we can. In that culture, that would work.
Okay, so let's count it. So Friday, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day would be Saturday. And then the third day is Sunday.
Third day, yes.
And he rose on the third day.
Yes.
Just like the belly of the whale. He was in there for 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
So
in the Talmud we read, they talk about how an ona, for example, any part of an ona of a day can be counted as the whole. So you could say so that's what they could do. Since Jesus died on Friday, any part of that day could be counted as the whole day. So he was in for 3 days in that cultural context. Now we look at that and go, 3 days and 3 nights. He's got to be in there entirely for 72 hours. Not in that culture though. Time is a little bit understood differently in that culture. And we see this resonated in the Old Testament and in the Talmud. So yeah, there's not this idea he had to be in for literally 72 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, feasible, reasonable to believe. Then it doesn't disrupt or contradict anything in my head right now. There's no flags going off.
Good.
What about Christmas? What are we doing on Christmas?
We are remembering the incarnation.
Well, I thought we were celebrating little baby Jesus's birthday.
Correct.
What day was that?
We don't know.
Why did we pick December 25th?
Because the early church fathers had this belief. It was a little odd, but this is what they believed. They believed that a prophet would die on the same day he was conceived. They believed, based on their calculations, they probably were not necessarily right, but they believed he died on March 25th. They just assumed he was also conceived that time. So you just count forward 9 months to get December 25th. That's what scholars like Thomas Schmidt will note. We see that in Apologists of Rome. And so that's kind of what they were doing.
That's kind of a stretch, isn't it?
Of course it is, but that's what the church tradition came to, yeah.
Yeah, see? The church tradition came to. Who's the church tradition?
The church fathers.
People,
yeah.
Regular old people, open to mistakes, open to perversion, open to, Satan, perhaps? Let me ask you, are we living in Satan's domain?
Yes and no.
I thought the earth is straight up underneath the domain of Satan right now.
My belief is that at the resurrection, this is when heaven starts to invade earth, and we slowly get to see that prophecy in Daniel of that mountain that strikes the feet and slowly consumes the whole earth. Same with what Jesus talks about the leaven slowly filling up, or the mustard seed plant. The kingdom of heaven is slowly going to become like a mustard seed and consume the whole earth. So
wouldn't that be the day? Mm-hmm. Can't you wait?
Well, that's why I'm a post-millennialist. I believe the kingdom is going to slowly win and take over the earth.
Do you think, we'll get to what you think, because that'd be an interesting conversation too, but let me go right back to December 25th.
Okay.
Do you know that, if you go look at what deities are born on December 25th?
0.
That's not true.
Name one.
Horus.
No evidence Horus was ever born on December 25th.
What do you mean? Google says it all over the place.
Google's wrong.
Oh, Google's wrong.
Yep.
How come you're not wrong?
Because
Were you there?
There is nothing in Egyptian records or hieroglyphics that mentions Horus's birthday on December 25th.
Okay, then what about the fact that you can go 5,000 years before Christ, the story of Christ, and they have the exact same story?
They don't. That was made up. With
the Sumerians and the Anunnakians or something like that.
That is not anywhere in any of Sumerian texts.
That's all made up.
This comes from 19th century people who were looking, like Gerald Massey, for example.
So all this stuff is wrong.
Yeah.
Based on what?
Based on people who thought they were doing research in the 1900s and were getting things wildly wrong and accurate.
What God was born December 25th?
The only one.
Here's what I found from Flamia Fire Ministries blogspot.com. December 25th
Scholars.
is actually the birthday of Mithra, a sun god. It is a day dedicated to the sun. Saturnalia was an agricultural festival celebrated in the middle of December.
December 17th.
But still.
Mithra was not born on December. Nope.
Now, again, you're telling these people they're wrong.
Yes.
I know. Based on what, though?
Based on the earliest records we have.
Maybe they didn't maybe they didn't see those earliest records, or maybe they interpreted them differently.
This came about in the 1900s. If you read scholars like Stephen Hyman's, for example, The Sun Did Not Rise in the East, or his paper on Christmas. No, there's no records we have of Mithra ever being born on December 25th. Roger Beck, who's a Mithraic scholar who spent his life studying this stuff, we have no evidence of Mithra's birthday ever being mentioned.
What was the birth date of Horus, the sun god?
I found this on the web.
I'd have to get out my readers.
So
but
Plutarch,
here's
for
what
example,
the Bible says about the birth of Horus.
the Bible does not mention the birthday of Horus.
Luke 2:6 through 14. Jesus was not born on December 25th. Hold on. Let me see what this says. Hold on. Let me see what this says. Because they're calling him Jesus, which is wrong. His name's Yahshua. Or Yesh, but whatever.
Yeshu.
Yeshu was not born on December 25th, date of his birth. I could read it, but there's this thing that's popping up, and I can't read it unless I fill that out.
So no, there is no deity that was ever said to have a birthday on December 25th prior to 354 AD. Christians were celebrating Christmas on December 25th at the beginning of the 300s and probably even earlier, based on their own calculations.
It says here, though, just it could be wrong. The roots of Christmas are found in Saturnalia.
No.
Pagans in Rome celebrated the week-long period of bedlam and lawlessness between December 17th and the 25th.
Never made it to
During
the 25th.
the period of this anarchy, no one could be punished for their vandalism and mayhem. Now, it sounds like, that movie that, what do you call it? Where you're allowed to kill everybody for 24 hours.
Oh, yeah, the Purge, yeah.
Yeah, so again, I mean, you start reading all this, and then you come along and say, well, that's all wrong.
It is.
Okay, well, let's assume that it is. Well, do those people know it?
No.
So they believe it.
Yeah, they're wrong.
And you might be.
I could be, but this is
So
something...
could I be. So that's why I'm not claiming any of this. I'm saying just listen to the simple sound of the word. Mm-hmm. Because why make it complicated? God says, hey, don't forget my name. And then we forget his name.
I don't think we forgot it.
We forgot it. Nobody knows it. Go ask people if they know God's name. They will not know his name.
But they know who he is.
They say God. And I go, that's not his name. Number one, that's a title. Number two, what's his name if you know him so well? See, you know him and I know him because we know his name. If you don't know his name, you don't know him. Now, that's just my belief. I could be wrong. Mm-hmm. Now, if you think his name is Jesus, well, go do your research because that wasn't his name. Now, I'm not saying that he doesn't care if you use it and he's fine if you say that and yada, yada, yada. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it wasn't his name. And every scholar I've ever talked to agrees that it wasn't his name.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So why are we not using the name he gave us?
Because he never said we have to.
Yes, well, he didn't say we had to, but he said, do it if you want some help. He said, call upon my name in time of need.
Well, then if we're going to go on what the Greek New Testament is, which is what the language of the New Testament was written in, we should be calling him Jesus, not Yeshu.
Again, it's not going by the Greek. We're going by the Aramaic. What was his name?
But when
he was born and raised, and he was named in Aramaic.
But when he is, the scriptures are inspired by God.
I know,
they're
but we're not
using
talking.
Jesus. So why don't we use that one? And that's what the name he is giving us in the scriptures he gave us.
But you're basically saying, hey, if God cared so much, he wouldn't have let us write it as Jesus.
Yeah, exactly.
I know, but we wrote it as Jesus. He didn't tell us to write it as Jesus.
You don't think the Holy Spirit inspired the authors of the New Testament?
Inspired, yes.
Okay.
Wrote all the words? No.
Oh, okay.
Do you?
I think the New Testament authors were inspired to write the New Testament as it is because this gives us the message and everything we need.
I believe it gives us the message or the gist, but it gives us false doctrine.
I would disagree with that.
I don't.
Okay.
And I'm not a scholar, though. So who cares what I
think?
think? Here's what I want to know about what you think.
Okay.
What do you think is going to happen? Number one, do you think we are going to see the coming of Christ in our lifetime?
Unfortunately, I do not think that because I don't believe there's going to be a future tribulation or antichrist. I'm a postmillennialist, so I have a different outlook.
What's a postmillennialist?
So most Christians today would be premillennialists, and they believe Jesus will return before the millennial reign to defeat an antichrist.
Isn't that what the scripture says?
Not necessarily, no. I did a whole long video recently called and Rethinking the End Times or End Times, A New Perspective, just in April. And I made a case that no, the scriptures actually teach something called postmillennialism. And that's the idea the Great Commission will be successful. So the church is going to continue to grow slowly but surely over a long period of time until the entire world, every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess that Jesus is God. So you see this in places like 1 Corinthians 15.
Before the resurrection?
Yes, before the resurrection.
Good.
So 1 Corinthians 15 says, he must reign until all enemies are under his feet. Jesus says in Mark 4,
who must reign?
Jesus will.
So he must reign but until all enemies are
enemies are under his feet, yeah.
Who's the enemy?
We are his enemies. Christ died for us while we were his enemies in Romans.
We're his enemies?
That's what Romans says. Christ
I thought
died
we
for
were
us.
his children.
Well, yes, we are both.
We're his children and his enemy?
Book of Romans says Christ died for us while we were his enemies.
See, you don't find any contradiction with all this.
No, because I could have a child
He
who
loves
goes,
us deeply, but we're his enemy.
because we have become his enemies. He didn't make us that. We did.
Exactly, because we're a bunch of idiots.
Of course.
So why are you trusting all of the older idiots? Like a scholar is just an older idiot than we are.
Well, they're a little bit more knowledgeable. idiots than
Why?
we
They
are.
didn't even have freaking phones back then. Like they had no knowledge of shit.
So
they
when-
were just sitting there assuming things.
So when
and then
anyone-
we're all running off like that's fact.
So when anyone says that, what you're saying is don't trust the scholars, trust me. And I'm saying
I'm not
give
saying
the
trust me. I'm
evidence.
saying look for yourself. And coincidentally, the scripture says the same thing. It says, seek and ye shall find. He doesn't say listen to Mike Jones. He doesn't say listen to Brad Lee.
No.
He doesn't say listen to my scholars. He says seek and you shall find. And so I don't know what the past tense of seek is. I sock.
I think it's just seek.
Yeah, I sock.
I seeked out.
Yeah, I seeked. And I'm learning, oh, that isn't his name? Well, that's interesting. Well, that's not really why we're celebrating Christmas. Well, that's weird. His birthday wasn't December 25th, but yet we all celebrate December 25th like it's his birthday. Why wouldn't we celebrate his birthday? Well, nobody knows what it is. Well, then why are you calling it his birthday? Well, someone just decided that. Like, that's not his birthday. And not only that, if you go back, it says right there, and other things that could be wrong, we weren't. It's Saturnalia. It was a pagan holiday.
Saturnalia.
Christmas trees is a Christmas tree is not even something you should be putting up.
No, Christmas trees are fine. They come from paradise trees.
Again, but I mean, I celebrate Christmas. Why? Because in my opinion, I'm honoring him no matter what everybody else is doing. So if I'm celebrating on December 25th that it's his birthday, I don't. I celebrate him. Not his birthday. And not only that, we all just open presents, to be real honest with you.
It's become very materialistic. But Macrobius, he's a 5th century author, I believe. He says Saturnalia was on December 17th, lasted for 3 days. Some of the early Julio-Claudian inscriptions, that is, say it could have lasted for a week, depending on the emperor, which means the longest it could have been was to about December 23rd. Christmas trees don't show up until the 1500s, and scholars like Tanya Gulovich think they actually came from Adam and Eve Place. The feast day in the Catholic calendar for Adam and Eve is on December 24th, and they would customarily celebrate it with a play. Well, in Germany, you don't have a lot of trees that are available except for pine trees, so they would use that as the paradise tree, and then it just slowly grafted into a Christmas tree on December 25th. So that's probably where the Christmas tree come from. It's entirely Christian in origin. The date, Christian in origin, no connection to Saturnalia.
Haven't heard that before.
Well, check out my channel. I've covered this
By the way,
times.
folks, if you find him interesting, go subscribe to his channel because this is what his channel's all about, basically. Now, I don't know if you've ever had the luxury of talking to a uneducated non-scholar such as I.
You're educated. I think you're very inquisitive. I think you know a lot, and I do appreciate that.
Well, I don't. I'm seeking.
Well,
So when someone says, well, what do you believe? I say, I don't know yet. Why? Well, because I think I have faith that there's something that created us. Do I think there's a God? Yes, I do. Do I think for sure? Oh, I know for sure it's this one. I don't know for sure. And I don't think anyone else does either.
True.
So when you claim so hard about something, dude, that's just what you've chosen. You don't know for sure because unfortunately, no one's came back to tell us. So I always think about when people die, we all get sad for them. Poor girl, poor guy. When in reality, aren't they, if this is all true, aren't they in a better place?
Why did Jesus weep when Lazarus died, though?
Why? That's what I want to know.
Well, I think death is something that was not intended for humans, and this is why the resurrection is important. We feel like something is amiss. Something happened that shouldn't have happened, that humans were meant to live forever.
Yeah, it was chicks eating the apple off the tree, wasn't it?
Well, it was Adam letting his wife, he was there with him.
Well, she talked him into it. That's why they're persuasive little.
Interestingly enough, 1 Corinthians 15 blames it on Adam. It says this is Adam's fault, not Eve's.
Well, isn't it always our fault?
Yeah.
Okay.
I see what you did there. But But yeah, it goes to this idea. I think we weep over death because humans are meant to have resurrected eternal bodies, and this is why Jesus came to redeem us and bring that back to us.
Okay, so when we die, do you think you're going to open your eyes in a different realm?
Yeah.
And that happens for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the hell going to be?
Hell is separation from God. It's exile in the afterlife.
So you're not burning in a lake of fire like it says.
I don't think the fire is literal because we're talking. I mean, this is you.
Are you going to feel pain?
Yeah, mental anguish. I think that's what's going on in the story with Lazarus and the rich man. Is this guy is not literally burning, like screaming. He's able to carry on a conversation. Hey, send Lazarus down. But the guy's in mental anguish. And notice he never asked to get out of hell.
Well, wouldn't you be in mental anguish if you knew you fucked up?
Yeah, that's what hell is.
And now you're paying for it forever. Eternity is a long time. Again, to me, it's a little contradictory. Why? Well, because if it's that drastic of a consequence, and my God loved me deeply, unlike anything else in the world, like he loves me, why would he allow me? Why would he let me go get fucked up like that?
Well, let me give you an analogy. Sometimes people have children, they get addicted to drugs.
So what? You don't want them to, and you don't allow them to. And if you're a good parent, you snatch them by the back of their head and you drag them into a bedroom and you lock them up and you sit there and wait them out and you fix them. Mm-hmm. You don't say, oh, I don't know what to do.
What if that's not going to work? What if they don't want to listen?
Have you tried?
Well, I've never had a kid like that.
Okay, but people that have had kids like that, they don't try.
And I know people
you know what
that
they
have
do?
Had kids
they
like
let
that.
the kid sit there and be a freaking druggie, and then the kid ends up in a worse situation. A real parent, and I'm not saying the parent doesn't love them, they don't know what to do. That's true. People don't know what to do. But if God said, here's what's going to happen to you if you don't listen to me, and it's true, well then why wouldn't he just stop us from wondering? Because right now, where's the proof?
Where's the proof of him?
Where's the proof? Yeah, where's the proof?
Well, Jesus sort of answers this in the parable we've been talking about. They have Moses and the prophets. If they do not listen to Moses and the prophets, they will not listen even if someone would rise from the dead.
That's not true. See, that is not true.
I think that's
Dude, if you saw a dead body get up and start talking to you, you wouldn't listen?
I'd listen to what he says. That doesn't mean I would necessarily.
I would. I would know for sure at this point that there is something else, brother. There is something else, and it's not of this world. I would know. Why? Because, dude, I witnessed a dead man stand up and tell me that God is real and to stop being an asshole or whatever. I would start preaching that all over the world.
Why would you?
Because I had evidence that it's real.
But why would you start preaching all over the world?
Because isn't that what we're supposed to be doing?
Well, you're doing it because you're supposed to, not because you love God and you.
I'm doing it because he asked me to. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, but that's the
if
thing.
He didn't ask me to, I wouldn't be doing it. Now, I might be doing it just out of, oh my God, do you know about my God? But if someone started punching me in the face, I'd probably start keeping it quiet a little bit. Why? Because every time I open my mouth about my God, I get punched in the face. And then I'd ask God, what do you want me to do? And if he said, I want you to get punched in the face. But when you die, brother, you're coming up here and it's going to be dreams for eternity. Then I guess I'd take an ass kicking until I finally died. Because he sure did, from what the story goes. Mm-hmm. Right? He took a ass whooping. Mm-hmm. And by the way, I thank him for that. When people say, well, you say, if it's true. Well, because guys, it could be bullshit, It could be. It could be the fact that a long time ago, dude, there was big guys and little guys, and the little guys were smarter than the big guys. And the big guys kept coming and taking their shit and humping their girls and like devastating them. And the little guys could do nothing about it. So they said, I know. Let's convince these big guys that there's another place and someday they're going to pay a price if they don't knock it off. And let's create some civility with these stories of deities.
So I don't think
and for hundreds and thousands of years, people will just listen to these stories and believe them.
Historically, that's not really how it played out. But let's go back to the main question here. You mentioned, why would you, if you saw a dead man rise, go around and start preaching? This is something the philosopher Paul Moser has talked about. God doesn't want basic theism. He wants cognitively robust theism. People that go out and preach, not because they're afraid of hell or because, all right, you're real, I got to do what you say, otherwise, you're the big guy. He wants people who will follow him because they love him, because they want a relationship with him.
I do.
Yeah. But a lot of people who would see that kind of stuff
but
would be like the rich man in hell. Let me just do it so that I don't end up here.
Dude, don't you feel like if you preach and you're preaching wrong, you're doing you and him an injustice?
I feel like it.
So the only way you would preach is if you knew, if you at least thought you knew.
I think there's plenty of evidence now that, so I do know, yeah.
What's the evidence?
Evidence in the resurrection plus New
Yes,
Testament
what is it?
reliability. So the evidence that Jesus rose from the dead. So we look at different facts when it comes to how the church rose out of this. So we go from Jesus being crucified to them believing not only that he physically rose, but this proved he was the Messiah. Scholars wrestle with how to explain this.
Exactly. Then how did the Jews say no?
How did the Jews say no?
Yeah, the Jews think, nope, that wasn't him.
Well, the scholar, philosopher Andrew Loke talks about this. It could have been sort of like what a lot of people do today, is where it just becomes very tribalistic, psychological. I'm rejecting him because he rejected how I already thought the scriptures should be. He's not the Messiah who came and freed us from Rome. That's what I really want. I want him a conquering Messiah, not a saving Messiah.
Do you know what I always ask Jews when I talk to them?
What?
The book that you guys talked about is called the Torah, correct?
Well, it's the Pentateuch contains the Torah.
Yeah, but they say yes, pretty much.
Are you talking about the Talmud or the Pentateuch?
The Jews back in the day went by the Torah.
Yeah, the Torah, yeah.
Yeah, so if you look at the Torah and you ask any Jew, did they remove a chapter? Did they remove a piece of that thing? They will say, yes, they did. And you're not allowed to read it, are you? No, we're not. They're not allowed to read it. There's a missing chapter. They're not allowed to read it. The ones that have read it become Christian worshiping Jews, or, Jews for Christians. I don't know what they say, but they supposedly read that missing thing and then they convert to Christianity.
I've not heard that, so I don't know what you're talking about now.
Dude, well, you're not Jewish, that's why.
Well, I'm not, no.
Every Jew I've talked to says it. Every Jewish individual that I know, I've asked that, and they all say yes.
Well, again, I don't know what they're referring to, so I can't really comment on it.
Well, then all you've studied was Christianity? You haven't, looked around into Judaism or...
No, I've read
or Buddhism or... Kabbalah.
Kabbalah is rather interesting, but it doesn't come about to about the 1300s.
So what made you decide Jesus Christ, that's the dude, that's the one, that's the story that's real?
The resurrection.
The resurrection.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's...
But that's it. That's your evidence.
The evidence that supports the resurrection. There was an empty tomb. Jesus was buried. We know that there was a tomb that somehow the body went missing.
You remember the shroud?
Yeah, I've heard of that, yeah.
Where you could see his face in it?
There's different theories on that.
That's pretty trippy.
Some people think it's forgery. Some people think it's authentic. I'm not really sure.
Why would God allow babies to get hurt and die and kidnapped? And why were bad things happening to people?
Well, first thing we need to find what bad and good is before we can even know if what's happening is bad.
Well, a car runs your baby over.
Mm-hmm. I would say that is intrinsically bad. It's suffering.
Why would God allow that?
Maybe God is focusing on other aspects those.
Doesn't he know everything?
He does, yeah.
So he knows that baby's about to get smashed by a car, and he knows you're going to be anguished.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't care?
I think he does care, but I also think God is also focusing on virtues right now. He's focusing on not so much reducing pleasure, but what God is aiming with his universe is increasing virtue, increasing character development. And the only way you do that is in a universe which is going to have different challenges. For example, the virtue of courage. You cannot live in a universe where you could obtain the virtue of courage without there being suffering. Compassion. You have to go through suffering for people to have compassion. If God is trying to create children that experience the fullness of virtues, who experience something called triumphant good, you have to go through suffering. It's like any author. J.R.R. Tolkien didn't write a story of the Care Bears. He wrote the story of Lord of the Rings, and the characters go through immense suffering to get there. But at the end, we say, this was truly a triumphant, good story. These characters are far better than they are than if they had never left the Shire. There's more to love about them. There's more to know about them. I think that's what God is doing with us. He's
giving us experience.
He's creating virtuous, knowledgeable, true sons of God.
At the cost of children?
Not at the cost of children. Who says their virtue building does not...
What about when little girls are getting sex trafficked and kidnapped?
Yeah, I think he hates that.
Well, why can't he stop it?
He could stop it. I never said he couldn't.
Why doesn't he?
Because again, it's depending on what God is trying to do in the universe. So I've developed something I call the law
I know,
of triumph.
but you're at least you're not saying what most people say. You know what most people say? Well, God works in mysterious ways.
No, I think God works.
You know,
in virtuous
we're not
ways.
we're just mere mortals. We can't even imagine. And I think, you know, maybe that's true, but like that don't make a lot of sense, does it?
No. So I would say that God works in virtuous ways. And so what I would say, as I've argued, is that God has instilled this idea called the law of triumph in the universe, where you have free creatures, and anytime they encounter suffering, if they choose to follow God and become one of his children, that pain, that suffering, can be turned into a triumphant experience that makes them into a better creature over time. So all good that we experience, or all evil we experience, will be turned into a greater good in the long run. So God allows for a universe where creatures come about through freedom, through a little bit of chaos, so that you can have unique stories, unique individuals that have unique stories, unique character building, unique virtue. And I cover all this in a video on my channel called The Problem of Suffering, a Christian Response. And I go into this in a lot of detail there.
Well, I'm going to go check out your channel and start watching some videos. Maybe you'll change my mind on some things.
I hope so. I hope you change my mind on some things.
Well, I think I already have.
Okay, good.
I definitely have you inspired to go investigate, don't I?
Well, I love investigating, yeah.
Well, I mean, you would have to almost. Because as a true philosopher, to me, it's like I'm a philosopher. And then you say, well, how so? Well, again, let's define philosopher.
Lover of wisdom, I would say.
That's me.
Good.
I don't need a degree to love wisdom.
No,
Do
I don't
you?
think- No, but I wanted one.
I know, but you got a degree in it. That's wonderful. But it doesn't mean someone else can't be a philosopher. Is it lover of wisdom? Define philosopher.
It'd be
A person engaged or learned in philosophy.
mm-hmm.
Middle English from the variant of philosoph. All right, hold on. Define philosophy.
Philosophy means the study of the fundamental nature of knowledge, reality, and existence, especially when considered as an academic discipline.
Yeah, I'm a philosopher then.
Fair enough. I think you can be under that definition.
Everyone, exactly. Everybody can be a philosopher. I think everyone should be a philosopher.
I agree.
I think we'd live in a better world if we were all philosophers.
I agree.
What if you found out that I'm right?
Then I would change my view.
So can you go investigate for the both of us and get back with me? Maybe do a part 2 someday.
Yeah, I could come back.
Like
yeah.
go out on the intent and purpose of making sure that you'll find evidence that I am incorrect.
Sure. On what specific thing?
Well, that his name wasn't anything that we say it is today. It was another name.
Yeshu.
That's his name.
Yeah, I've already conceded that. Yeah.
Okay, so if that's his name, why is everybody using some other name?
Because again, the New Testament has already set the precedent that
But
it's
could that be a mistake?
no. Because the
Why?
New Testament doesn't say it's a sin or wrong to transliterate names or use designators you have in your culture.
I don't think it says it isn't one.
Doesn't say what.
It doesn't specify. It says use my name. He just says use my name.
And that
Here's my
again,
name. Use my name. He didn't say any more than that. Well,
But
he
again,
doesn't
that's
say that
not
we
just-
can't use his name.
But that's not just a designator.
That's like if I said, "Hey, Mike, here's how you can help me, bro. When you go out there, tell him it was awesome to be on Dropping Bombs.
I will. I definitely will.
And I want you to tell him Brad Lee was a great guy.
I will.
And then like I learned a year from now that you went out there and you said, you know, Dropping Trees was a great podcast and Barney Fife was a great host.
Because in our culture, that would be very insulting. Yes.
Yeah, but I'd be like, dude, that's not what I said.
Exactly.
Well, you'd say, well, I know, but when I left, I started talking to my wife, and my wife, you know, kind of forgot your name, and so she called you Barney. So I figured I didn't want to, you know, upset her, so I just said, okay, Barney, and I started saying Barney, and then my children heard Barney, and I never really told them the story how it was actually Brad, and the whole story where she messed up, and I was just, you know, didn't want to bother her, so I just played along, and then, you know, generation after generation after generation, now they're calling me Barney. Who fucked up?
Well, I think that's not a good comparison because Barney is an entirely different name.
So is Jesus. Jesus doesn't sound like anything like Yeshua.
Well, Yeshu, Jesus, you can see the story how it kind of goes there.
No, it translated into Iesus.
Isus, yeah.
Yeah, or Iesous or Iesos, depending on who you look at. The shit I'm looking at is Or I've seen it Isous, but it's Iesus. And that makes sense to why that's Jesus. So his name wasn't Jesus till the 1500s because the J didn't even exist. His name was Iesus. Iesus. And why was it Iesus? Because they were trying to get people to understand that this is a male deity. We're talking about a male deity, and you don't understand the language of Aramaic, so I'm going to translate the books and the scriptures to the language you understand. And when I'm talking about this person, there is no name or combination of letters that will allow me to get you to understand, not say his name, because his name, we know his name. And in the scripture, that was his name.
Then why was the name already transliterated as Jesus before Jesus was born?
I'm going to go investigate that.
All right, yeah. It's in the Septuagint, book of Zechariah.
So,
yeah.
And I want you to, too.
Oh, yeah.
I want you to go confirm that is the case.
I definitely will, yeah.
Because if it was Iesus before he was born, then my question would be, what did God say when that was written? That God said, you will have a child and his name shall be what? Did he say Iesus?
I don't think that the Messiah's name was given in the Old Testament.
I believe it was. Go investigate for us.
I will, yeah.
Okay, because didn't God tell Mary that you will have a child and his name shall be?
He shall be called Emmanuel.
Yeah, so what's Emmanuel?
Man, God with us is what it means. In the book of Matthew, he tells Joseph, I believe.
But did he say Emmanuel, or did we transliterate something he said to Emmanuel?
No, that's more of a title. That's more of expressing his nature. This is going to be God with us. It's not saying this has got to be his literal designator.
Did anywhere ever, do you call a name a designator?
Well, that's what they are.
Yeah, but he said his name.
Yeah. But
the scripture says, call upon my name.
But again, when they say that, that's different than what we mean. We mean designator. They mean more essence. And essences can have multiple designators.
So call upon my essence.
Yeah.
Is what they meant.
Yeah, and there's many ways to do that.
Why didn't they say call upon my essence then?
Because it's about what they mean in their culture. It's like if I said, I saw a car flying down the road. It'd be weird for someone in the past to be, oh, did you have flying cars? No, that's an expression we use. Same with that culture. Call upon my name is a much broader understanding. It doesn't just mean the designator. It means more about who the being is.
Well, then who's correct? How do we get somebody that really knows it all to tell us the truth? Well, which, by the way, is all I'm seeking.
You get me on, and then I help you out. You know?
Well, again, dude, you definitely sound like you know your stuff. I'll let the bomb squad decide. They're going to go research you. I know I'm going to get a million comments from Jews saying I'm wrong, Christians saying I'm wrong. There's atheists going to be saying you and me sound like idiots.
Yep.
No one's going to agree. Nothing we're going to do is get people to agree. And I'm not trying to get anyone to agree. All I'm trying to do is get people to seek. Why? Because according to what I believe, the scripture said to do so. He wants us to seek. And apparently, if you do, you will find. Mm-hmm. And by the way, define seek. Is that listen, follow?
Broader, I'd say.
So it's not listen and follow?
I'd say that seek encompasses listening and following.
Seeking to me is like learn and look and pay attention and listen and question. Mm-hmm. Question. You can't seek while I'm just believing everything that comes out of your mouth. Oh, my scholar said this. Well, who the fuck is the scholar, first of all? Well, no, the scholar, oh, you're building credibility for the scholar. Okay, well, now I see why, oh, yeah, this scholar probably knew his shit based on what I know. Who decided that this scholar is correct? Well, that was just the general consensus. From who? A bunch of heretics, or what do you call it? Heretics?
Well, I wouldn't say heretics, but...
A bunch of people, humans...
Bunch of humans.
Average mortal dipshits. Fallible creatures.
We are
mistake-ridden.
Yeah.
Those people, that's who you're banking it on.
Well, if we're all like that, we got to bank on some people. And
nope. Here's what I would do. I would say, I can't bank on human being because we all fall short. The scholars could be wrong. The priests could be wrong. There's priests that hump little boys.
Unfortunately, yeah, that is horrible.
And what does the church do?
Well, unfortunately, they've not handled it well.
They move them.
Yeah,
okay.
That's bad.
Now, again, you want to be a part of that, brother? I don't. And I don't think God allows it. I don't think it's okay with God.
No, I don't either.
I think that's a bunch of people doing some people shit.
Yep.
Okay. So why are you listening to people? They're the ones that decided this, that, and the other thing. That's not seeking. That's following. That's listening. Now, seeking would be, okay, I heard what these guys say. Now let me go see if I believe it.
Yeah, I've done that.
And then you go root around and find a bunch of evidence that now, okay, I did look and I agree. I agree with this. Mm-hmm. Good. That's all I'm trying to do. And that's all I want other people to do. What would you tell everybody to do?
I seek. As you said, I think everyone should, and I've said before, don't just take my word for it. Go out and study these things. Read multiple scholars. I read scholars I disagree with. I was reading Mark Smith over the weekend. I agree with a lot with what he says, but I think there are some things I disagree with what he says. And there's plenty of other scholars I think that may make better convincing arguments in certain ways, so I go with them. I'll study the evidence. Sometimes I've read scholars and I've realized, oh, they actually miscited the wrong verse here. Here's where the verse they actually meant to cite. Because as you said, they're fallible. But yeah, I would never say, just listen to this guy. I would say, listen to them, take in the information, read other guys, weigh the evidences, and see what you think is the best explanation of the data.
Okay, now let's wrap up with the resurrection, Armageddon, tribulations of the final times. There's a lot of scholars that will say we're in them right now. What do you think?
I would say we are not, because the church has not finished its mission.
So we are nowhere near the revelation, the tribulation, and the end of the world.
No, and I just did a video, I believe, in March called Why Jesus Hasn't Returned Yet. And I make the case that we're just not ready for him, and there's lots of good reasons to think that we're still not going to be ready for him in this generation.
Do you believe in aliens?
Actually, yes, I do.
How do you believe in aliens and Jesus?
Well, because I take a view of evolution called structuralism, where I believe the universe has been fine-tuned for life. So if you were to rewind the tape of life back to zero and start over, you would get human life again or something similar. The paleontologist Simon Conway Morris says if we didn't walk out of Africa, our human-like creatures would eventually walk out of South America, because the universe was fine-tuned to bring out certain structures. This is where the term structuralism comes from. So I think if it happened on this planet, the universe was fine-tuned to create life on this planet, why not other planets? So I think it's very likely that on other planets, the universe was fine-tuned to create life there.
By God?
Yeah. He made
so
the
aliens are God's children too?
Could very well be, yeah.
On separate planets?
Could very well be, yeah. I did a video called Was Evolution Inevitable? And that's where I argue that.
Well, I'm going to have to go listen to your arguments before I can argue with you.
I would love that, yeah.
The only way I argue is if I believe. So I'd have to watch your video to see what you believe in that regard. But what I'm trying to close with is get people thinking, what's about to happen? Nothing?
I believe what's about to happen is we'll see another revival eventually, and the church will continue to grow slowly but surely. And when we are ready, then Christ will return as king.
So what should we all do until then?
What Jesus left us with, the Great Commission.
Which is, where do you find that?
Matthew 28, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
So is that what you do on a daily basis?
That is what I do on a daily basis.
Which tells me that you believe.
I do, yes.
Now, I always tell people I don't judge people. But, because Scripture says thou shalt not judge, doesn't it?
Thou shalt not judge lest you be judged by the same standard, yeah.
Yeah, so lest you be judged. So you can judge as long as you be judged the same way.
Yeah.
Oh, well then I can judge people.
Sure can.
Lest I be judged the same way.
Mm-hmm.
If I judge you, you can judge me the same way. Because I only get judged on moral and ethics, in my opinion. So I think it's immoral to do some things that some people might think is completely fine. Well, we differ in that opinion, right? But I can judge because I'm willing to be judged by the same thing, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So we can judge.
Yeah.
See, people will say, thou shalt not judge.
Well, they need to read the rest of the chapter.
And then they also say, you will know his children by their fruit.
Yeah, you will know my disciples by their fruit, I believe.
What fruit?
The works we do, the actions. So, do people live in a way that they love thy neighbor as thyself?
But what are those fruits, actions, or fruits come from your actions?
Fruits come from, I would say, depending on how you word it, you could say the fruit of the Spirit.
But if you look at my life, I got quite a bit of fruit. My fruits are wonderful.
Okay.
What they are. I have beautiful children. I have a beautiful family. I have a beautiful business. I have a beautiful office. I have beautiful cars.
Very beautiful here, yeah.
I have beautiful health. I'm beautiful in a lot of ways. Those are my fruits, no?
They could be. And definitely
Well, then,
was. Yeah.
would my fruits prove that there's a God?
Not in that way, no.
So what does he mean by judge them by their fruits?
So the fruit of the Spirit we see in Galatians is love, joy, patience, peace, kindness. You will know as children because they display these virtues.
That's me, brother.
Then good.
Say them again.
Love, joy, patience, peace, kindness.
Well, I don't like patience, but yeah, the rest of it, yes.
Yeah, patience is hard. Yeah.
Well, patience, dude, if you think about patience, it's the ability to not get affected by trouble, challenge, or delay.
Yeah.
Now, if there was a situation like a girl saying, hey, let me slip into something more comfortable, well, then I would think, yeah, have patience, relax, like calm down. It's okay, relax, have patience. But when you say, hey, I want to make $1 million this year, and someone says, well, making money takes time, so just be patient. Most people will sit back and be like, okay, I'll wait because things take time. Well, things take time, but that doesn't mean be patient. That doesn't mean that you should not get upset because it's not happening. I think you should get upset.
Mm-hmm.
I think you should increase your intensity, not be patient. When it comes to, building your dreams or chasing your dreams to a point where I want to be rich or I want to be successful, well, then you can't be patient.
Yeah, well, I don't think that's what they mean by patience. I think they mean it's the opposite of wrath. So patience is the counteractor of wrath, which is one of the 7 deadly sins. We don't, when something bad happens, we don't get wrathful. We get patient with people. We treat them like they are the image of God, and we become patient with them. We don't let our anger immediately take us over and destroy them. We go, okay, let's be patient with them. That's what that means.
Have you heard that God is a female?
That wouldn't make any sense because God is beyond gender, except Jesus in the incarnation who's male. So it wouldn't make sense to say that.
So is God male or female?
Jesus is male. He's the second person of the Trinity, but the Father is neither male nor female.
What is he?
He is God.
God is a title.
It's also the name of a being, kind of. It's a designator for a being.
I might have got you here. God is not his name.
God is a title, sure.
God is a title.
Yeah.
So that's not his name.
Fair
It's
enough.
not what he is.
Fair enough.
So again, what if he's not a male and he's not a female? What is it a he or a she or a it?
Well, in the Bible, he uses he pronouns, so he would be more masculine to us in that sense. I mean, he says, I am he in the book of Isaiah, for example.
So it can't be a she.
No, can't be.
And didn't God make us in his own image?
Yeah, male and female, though.
Yeah, but he made us in his own image, which is men. And then he made women from the rib of man.
I would say side. I think that's a better translation of
But
Selah.
they came from the man. So the man was first.
Yeah, but Genesis 1 says, in the image God made them male and female. So both male and female are the
Okay,
image
so
of
here's
God.
my last questions.
Okay.
In the beginning, there was Adam and Eve, correct?
They were the first priests. Yeah.
So there were more than them?
Yes.
Who? How come they're not mentioned?
Well, they are kind of mentioned.
No, I'm talking about the very beginning,
Yeah.
the very beginning of time. All I was ever told is in the Garden of Eden, there was Adam and Eve in the very beginning of time, right?
No, I would disagree with that because
Okay.
Genesis 1 is where the beginning is. And Adam and Eve aren't mentioned there.
And he said, let there be light, and there was light, and let there be birds and rain and trees and earth and all that crap. Boom, there's the planet. Now who's on the planet?
Humans.
A bunch of them?
Yeah, it talks about humans generally. So man is basically spoken of.
So
That
Adam
doesn't
was
mean-
not the first human.
Michael Heiser actually argued no. It's that humans in Genesis 1 are spoken of like as a broad category. Then when you read Genesis 2:4, it says, these are the generations of the heavens and the earth. Now that phrase is a Toledoth formula. These are the generations of. And when we see that show up in other places in Genesis, it always introduces what comes after the person. So these are the generations of Terah. What comes after Terah? These are the generations of Ishmael. So when we see it in Genesis 2, it's saying this is what comes after Genesis 1.
Which is Adam and Eve.
After Genesis 1 is Adam and Eve. So that means all the humans in Genesis 1 were more broadly spoken of. There's more there. They're
I know,
not spoken
but
of as just being
I'm
Adam
trying
and
to
Eve.
figure out, were there two to begin with? Like once upon a time, there were two human beings, a male and a female,
Okay.
right? Is that right?
In the garden, yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, period. Like, was there other ones before the garden?
Yeah, I would say Genesis is ambiguous.
Did
on
we
that.
start with 1,000 people? 1,000 men,
more.
1,000 women?
It's ambiguous.
Did one day someone go bing and there was 1,000 men and 1,000 women?
It's ambiguous. We don't know.
Right. Well, I always heard the Adam and Eve story where it started with Adam and then he was lonely and, great. So they gave him Eve, which makes sense because like that's a hell of a gift. Thank you, sir. Now I got a partner and a mate and then, the partner and the apple and, blah, blah, blah. But my question, if that's real, is the first there was Adam and Eve. And most people say, yeah, that's right. And then I say, okay, who'd they hump?
Well, they would have had sex with each other.
Okay, great. So now they produced whom?
Cain and Abel.
That's 2 boys. Who else?
Well, Genesis 5 says they had other sons and daughters.
Okay, good. So they had other sons and daughters. Who'd they hump?
Well, they would have had sex with other people outside of the garden.
Where? How were they made if it started with Adam and Eve?
Well, because again, Adam and Eve don't come until Genesis 2. Genesis 1 just says humanity is
So
made.
there's already people on earth.
Yeah.
Well, then when God made the man and the woman to begin with, right, he either started with 100 of them and then they started all humping each other.
That's one way to put it.
Okay, so if we all started humping each other, isn't it all incest if the beginning is 2 and we all started humping there and then out came 6 and they started humping each other or their moms or their daughters, like who knows? Like where did the humping begin? So that's what I want to know. And people who listen to this are going to be laughing, but I'm serious because that's part of that questioning. It's like, listen, if there was Adam and Eve, like they say, and that was it. Now I've heard people like you say, oh no, there was others. Okay, I know, but is there any record of the beginning? Because at some point, if we started out with 1 and 1, then we're all related. Mm-hmm. If we started out 100 individual human beings that are not related and 100 girls that are not related, that could populate the world without technically being with each other or like incest. Mm-hmm. Theoretically, because there's a lot of combinations that could
we would
take
all
place.
Eventually be related because of all the intermarrying. That's what actually.
So if we're all related,
there was a book written on it recently by Dr. Joshua Swamidass. He's a genetic scientist, and he wrote a book called The Genealogical Atom. And he argues that we may not all be genetically related, but we're all genealogically connected because of intermarrying. So let's say Adam's daughter marries someone outside of the garden. Okay. The children of that girl would still be descended from Adam, even though they don't have his Y chromosome. So they wouldn't be genetically connected, but they'd still be genealogically connected, according to him.
But that would make us all related.
Yeah.
Black, Asian.
We're all related.
All of us related.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that actually inspired Darwin.
But do you think that's the truth too?
I think we are all related.
So me and you are related.
Yeah. We're all genealogically connected, yeah.
Huh. Do you believe that we are beings?
Yeah.
Like greater than our bodies?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm an idealist.
Do you believe in manifestation?
Depends on what you mean by manifestation.
The laws of attraction?
I do not.
You do not believe you can attract things into your life through thought?
No.
But you believe in aliens?
I believe in the structuralist account. So yeah, I do believe that other planets could produce life, yeah.
Do you believe in UFOs that are flying around, that those are aliens?
I have no opinion on those. I don't
You know that
so.
you know that we can't fly around other planets like that.
Yeah, I'm skeptical of that.
So that would be an advanced civilization if they can zoom down here, no problem.
Yeah, it would be. It would be interesting, but as Carl Sagan said, it's not aliens until it's aliens.
Huh. All right, Michael Jones, you got any final words for the Bomb Squad? I'm sure that this is going to go and get a lot of attention.
I hope so.
Some for me, some against me, but as I said, and which makes, if they're for me, I wouldn't say they're going to be against you. Mm-hmm. They might say something like, he doesn't have an answer for that, because a couple times you didn't really disagree, which means then technically I'm right.
Fair enough.
So your fans will be like hating on me, I'm sure, saying, dude, he answered you 3 times and you kept asking him the same thing.
It is what it is. When you're on the internet, there's a lot of mudslinging. I just tend to laugh and move on.
All right, well, folks, go to inspiringphilosophy.org. That's his website. You can find him at Inspiring Philosophy. Michael Jones, founder and director of Inspiring Philosophy. Sounds like he's done his homework.
I try to.
Okay, leave the Bomb Squad with 3 of the most impactful verses or scripture that you can think of?
Jeremiah 17:9.
Hold on. I need to write these down.
All right.
Jeremiah 17:9.
Yeah.
What's it say?
For the heart is wicked and deceitful above all else. Who can understand it? I might be paraphrasing a little bit, but
Say that one more time.
Jeremiah 17:9. The heart is wicked and deceitful above all else. Who can understand it?
And what does that mean?
Well, don't trust your heart necessarily. Trust your brain, because sometimes the heart can lie to you. Your emotions can mislead you into things.
Don't go by your heart.
No, don't follow your heart. Follow Christ. I would say that's the...
What if your heart is Christ?
I would say then you have been fully sanctified, which I don't think any human on earth has
That's
been
me,
yet.
brother.
Really?
I
That's
think,
good.
dude, I think I have 4. If everyone's assigned an angel for protection, I've been given 4.
That's pretty impressive if that's true. Another verse I would say is when Paul talks about the fruit of the Spirit in Galatians 5, he says, against such things there is no law. Now, what's interesting is he's actually took that from Aristotle. That's a direct quote from Aristotle's Politics. And he's saying, look, if you have the fruit of the Spirit, you don't need law to tell you what to do because you're just going to do the good anyway. You're going to be
right.
loving. Yeah.
So I don't need the law.
No, Paul says we don't if we have the fruit of the Spirit.
Amen, huh? And by the way, amen, isn't that Amen Ra?
No.
Why do they say amen?
It just is a Hebrew phrase, let it be so.
Okay.
It does not come from Amen Ra at all, no.
Yeah, and I'm going to look at this stuff up.
Go
What was
for
the
it.
third one?
Third one, I would say, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
What's that one?
Matthew, I believe it's Matthew 28, verse, it's either 17 or 18, I believe. I can't remember the exact verse, but it's at the end of Matthew.
So Galatians 5, Matthew 28, 17, and what was it? Don't go by your heart?
Jeremiah 17:9.
Jeremiah 17:9. Okie dokie. Matthew 28:17 basically says,
Yeah, I believe it's 17. It could be...
go out and preach.
Go out and, do the Great Commission. Yeah.
The Great Commission is tell everybody about Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Not just tell them, but make them into disciples.
Dang.
Yeah, that takes a lot of work. It takes work, yeah.
Lead them.
Lead them, yep.
You can't lead anybody without LEA. That's my last name.
I like that, yeah.
Otherwise, you just get the D. Okay? You don't want to lead people to the D.
No.
You want to lead them to the promised land.
Exactly.
Folks, this has been fun. Michael, appreciate you coming in. Guys, go follow this dude. Until next time, keep it real. And remember, they could be full of shit. Just because they're scholars don't mean nothing. Like today's my cheat day. I'd get up, fucking have anything I wanted for breakfast, anything I wanted for lunch, everything I wanted, and I'd eat it all because I knew I ain't gonna get it all week. So I'm gonna fucking pig out. And I had a cheat day. Well, I was given wrong directions.